doing? Yo.
Welcome to another episode of Preacher's Hour podcast. Church announcement. This is the last episode of 2021. Okay, so we're gonna.
I'm gonna miss you guys so much.
Jeez. No, we're gonna obviously we're recording this during Thanksgiving week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's Monday for us, and we're gonna enjoy our families, enjoy Thanksgiving, and then
Christmas.
we could maybe do one in December.
It's just hard to
It's
plan.
gonna be crazy because I'm going to my wife are going to South Africa with a bunch of people, and it's just gonna be it's the holidays.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna take a little hiatus. It'll still be season 4 when we come back,
Mm-hmm.
and then So just so you guys know, this is gonna be it for a while, for a few weeks at least. Where are they at? Don't worry about it. We'll be all right. We
Like,
cool.
oh man, they got canceled.
Yeah, we'll update you guys. Send you post some quick little Instagram videos. Hey,
Oh, yeah, for
just
sure.
checking in. We're still alive.
Actually, it's gonna be cool to get some video while you were at
listen,
South
I'm gonna
Africa.
try to do as much pictures and stuff of South Africa and all that. So
Man, I kind of wish I'm a little sad that I'm not going this
you've
time.
been twice.
But
You're fine.
I've never been with you though. That's different, bro. That'd have been legit.
Yeah, man. So
Could sit there and get some braai together.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but hopefully I will.
Braai? Oh, it's
So-
like barbecue, but the way they do it,
Okay.
it's fantastic.
Okay. So, guys, we have a really cool topic. I'm just really excited about it, and I'm gonna tell y'all, man, I'm not excited about every topic.
Oh, I think
That we do.
I think
Right?
the audience knows that.
Like
some episodes are like,
some episodes are just like, this was okay.
yeah,
We got it out, and I think it's helpful, and that's great. And then it reflects in like the views and
Yeah.
download stuff. It's like, that's what I thought. But this one,
Yeah,
I'm
man.
actually legitimately excited.
I think it's because it really gave perspective.
Yeah, man, it just it confirmed a lot of stuff that I thought,
True.
but I didn't have like the information and the words to like break it down and explain it. And it taught me some new stuff as well. So
Yeah, man.
today we're talking about Faith for Exiles, which I actually have the book titled Faith for Exiles, which I just started. It's amazing. I'll read some stuff out of it on the episode. But this was based on, this was actually based on this book, which is Live No Lies by my boy John Mark Comer.
Man.
Shout out to him. Amazing book. I'm like a couple
I
chapters
just started
in.
reading it today.
We're gonna start reading it. It's dope. I'm
It's
trying to
so
get into
good.
reading, guys. So we're trying to get more reading. I'm trying to grow up a little bit.
Yeah, man.
Read
Leaders
some
are
books.
readers. So
Yeah.
Get it in.
Leaders are readers. Bars. Okay.
Oh, that's not my
But
bar.
anyway, so in the Live No Lies book, he actually cites this article,
That's right.
which is where this book comes from. The Barna Group, which is like the Christian version of Pew Research. They do a bunch of different societal research, and they put out a bunch of different studies and articles, things like that. They're really cool. They have podcasts, which I listen to. David Kinnaman and Carrie Newhoff have a great podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And so this article talks about young people, I think between 18 and 28.
Really?
Yeah, just that whole group. 1829, I think, is the group.
Oh, wow.
And their like journey in the West, in Western culture, as far as like being Christians. And so it's just really interesting to see that a lot of those people call themselves Christians, but a very small percentage of them would be what they call resilient disciples.
Yeah.
Which is the term. They actually have four terms,
categories.
and we'll probably put the graphic in the episode. I'm sure Josiah can do that. Put the screenshot of the 4 categories, but you got 4 kinds of exiles, and let me just back up to explain
What
exile means. So, the book and the article talk about this thing called digital Babylon, which, if you read the Bible, with any amount of the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, Babylon is both a physical place and it represents kind of the worst of humanity. In fact, I think there's a quote that I have. If I can find it, that would be great. If I can't, I apologize.
No, that's fine. I think one of the things is while you're looking for that, like Babylon is almost like couldn't like be summed up even like as a mindset, like the way that you think, the way that you view the world, and it's almost like extremely like selfish in most ways. Yeah.
So I found it. It says Babylon of the Bible is characterized as a culture set against the purposes of God, a human society that glories in pride, power, prestige, and pleasure.
Damn. Okay. What does that sound like?
Well, so it says Babylon is both a place and an archetype of collective human pursuits set in opposition to God.
Wow.
Okay.
Well.
So and then you know the story of the Bible, the children of Israel were exiled in Babylon, right? So they found themselves in this culture that was opposite of theirs, that was hostile to theirs. And a lot of them kind of assimilated to the culture, but a very small amount of them stayed loyal to Yahweh, which is the story of Daniel,
right,
and his friends, and you know, Jeremiah talks about people in Babylon, sends a letter to them. So this idea of digital Babylon is what we are in now, in the West, in that we live in a technological age that is just like insane, bro. I can't keep quoting this book, but I was just reading, you know, the past 2 hours preparing for this, and it's just like we're the first generation that cannot rely on the wisdom of the previous generation to navigate technology. So
they didn't have it.
We have nobody to look back to. Say, hey, how'd you guys deal with this?
Oh, wow.
With all this technology. We're going to be the ones that the future generation looks back on and say, how did they deal with this stuff?
Sheesh.
Right. Which is really scary.
That is scary because depending on how we handle it.
Yeah, because most human civilizations are able to like kind of look at the past and learn from the wisdom of their elders and just keep passing it down. It's cut off here. Right. I mean, once you get to 2007, when the iPhone was invented, everything changed. The whole world changed.
Dang. That wasn't even that long ago.
No, not at all. We graduated high school in 2007. So
that's insane.
You also see a rise in anxiety, depression, loneliness increases 2007 onward. Right? Not a coincidence. And so, we live in this digital culture, which is more dangerous than a physical one, right? Like we are in an empire, right? But it's not like Babylon, like knocking on your door, like, hey, you know, you're right. It's even worse.
Yeah, because it's super close.
Yeah, it's literally in like our pockets
all the time.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, man, it's crazy. And so this quote that I got from the book says, "Screens disciple." So what that means is that literally, like, people are discipled by screens in this generation. Right.
So wild. Like just thinking about like, and it's. I hope it's not a super tangent, but it's like when you think about when we watch movies about the future and like how I just watched something like a couple of days ago where like they were literally like teaching children how to read and do all that stuff, but it wasn't a person. It was just, they were literally like watching a screen, learning how to be human. And you just think about like screens disciple, and you think, oh, you know, back in the day, people would be like, there's no way you can be discipled like without a person, like someone needs to do it for you or someone needs to teach you. But in this age, it's like, not really. You could literally use anything other than a person to get them to know any information. And if you have enough power, enough money to get your message to the masses more often than the next person, then your message is going to be the one that goes the furthest.
Yeah. And so here's a quote from the book, which is crazy. If a literal Babylon were around today, the internet would certainly be in the imperial toolbox. And insofar as we thoughtlessly consume whatever content comes our way, we'd be cheerful participants in our own colonization.
God.
So like all the Netflix we consume, all of the YouTube, all of everything, man, we are literally colonizing ourselves. Like we're making it really easy for Babylon to colonize us.
Take over.
Yeah, take over our minds, right? The idea of digital colonization is crazy. So it says pop culture is a reality filter. Websites, apps, movies, TV, video games, music, social media, YouTube channels, and so on increasingly provide the grid against which we test what is true and what is real. And so that's what it means when screens disciple us. They literally affect our perception of reality, of what's real. And what we don't understand as, older-ish Christians working with kids, and the church probably is struggling, still trying to figure out how to deal with this, is that these kids are way more discipled by their screens than by us.
Absolutely.
Right? That is a huge reason why this podcast exists, is because the fact that screens are discipling, we have to compete. Yeah. We have to make content that's going to be where kids are consuming it, which is on screens. Yeah. Okay, we can complain about screen time and these kids, all these attention spans and TikTok.
It's not going down.
It's only going to get worse.
It's not going down.
So you have to jump on it.
Yeah, I think you got to find ways to, like, especially as Christians, like a way to invade the culture. So like we weren't just put here to just preach the gospel in the same way Jesus did when he was walking the earth. Like he said, you guys got to be as cunning as serpents.
Yes.
So like
we are preaching the same gospel, but we can't use the same
tactics. No, there's no way. There was a time when but people before us would use Bible tracts, and like they would literally like take these little cartoons, hand them out to people. People are supposed to read them, and it would be like, oh wow, that's crazy. I didn't think about life like that. I just finished reading a book by Randy Alcorn, and the book was written in like 2004,
pre-2007.
Yeah, and literally like they talked about this guy got a Bible tract and he just started thinking about, man, I never thought about life in this way, and the main character, and I was like, this would never work right now, like not a chance. Having somebody a Bible tract, I mean, even if it was the most dope art you could think of, it wouldn't even compete with screens.
Yeah, so we have to stop complaining, and we've got to start using the tools.
Absolutely.
Because like they say in the book, technology is not bad in and of itself. There is a lot of good things that come out of it. It's amazing that we have the ability to learn information instantly.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to go ask somebody. If I'm watching something, I'm like, I wonder, where have I seen that actor before? Boom, boom, boom. Okay, that's cool. Like, simple. Yeah. Like, I mean, there's just, I'm watching Narcos Mexico. I can be like, oh, is this what happened?
No, it really did happen in this way. Yeah.
And so, yes, I watched Narcos Mexico. Okay, judge me. But it's just insane. Even the fact that I watched Narcos Mexico, and I mean, just all of pop culture, all of the stuff that we consume, the idea of FOMO. Bro. I mean, like we live in a culture that requires you and pressures you to be up to date, and know what's going on, and you're looked at as you haven't heard of that, you haven't seen that, bro. Squid Games, we were not gonna watch it, we just weren't. We were just like, oh, that looks okay, that was a little crazy, whatever. And then it's like everybody's talking about it, everyone's watching it, all the memes are coming out. I'm like, I want to know why this is funny. I want to get it,
but I haven't watched it yet.
Bro. I mean,
but I know it's coming. I know it's going to get to time. I'm like, dang, okay, I'm way behind. But
it's so crazy how like this peer pressure that I feel.
That no one's actually putting on you.
No, but we literally took hours out of our life and watched this thing.
Hours.
Yes, hours.
I think every episode's like 40 minutes.
And listen, it was good. The ending wasn't great. But it was, I get it. I was like, oh, okay. I get why this is a hit. But it's just this idea that we have to constantly be like, keeping up and like knowing what's happening and consuming the latest thing is discipleship.
It is.
It's not good discipleship. But yeah, so we are exiles in Babylon, in this digital Babylon. And so the book and the article highlight 4 types of exiles, right?
Okay.
So you've got prodigals / ex-Christians. That's 22%. So 22% of people, 18 to 29, would classify themselves in that category. And then you've got 30% are called nomads / unchurched. So like they grew up in church. They are not a part of a church. They're
Gotcha.
kind of journeying. They're not part of it. They're unchurched. Doesn't mean they're not Christian, but they're not going to a church.
So,
and they're part
so
of a
all
church.
of these identify as Christian.
The prodigals, very few of them do.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. And then the other two groups are 38% are called habitual churchgoers. These people regularly, weekly attend a church. They're the largest group. And then 10% are called resilient disciples. Now, I hate to use the term real Christians, but that's essentially what this is saying.
Yeah.
That only 10% of people who claim to be Christian are actually actively following Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Consistently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think one of the things is, I think that's one of the differences between like the habitual church goer and the resilient disciple is like, even after I mess up, even after I go through a traumatic experience, like I'm still like pushing forward to look more and more like Jesus, I guess.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And so, there's a couple quotes that I pulled out. And so question, what do people even mean when they call themselves Christian? Because unfortunately have to ask that question.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are like, yeah, I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
I mean, my students say all the time, yeah, I'm a child of God. I'm a child of God. I'm like, are you?
Are you? Because Hebrews says like God disciplines his children.
Listen, I mean, you have to be adopted into the family first.
Yeah.
And that only comes through faith in Jesus.
So,
and you sure ain't acting like a child of God. And so 2/3 of this group of 18, 29-year-old, 2/3 of them identify as Christian.
wow.
Right? But only 10% of them, we'll get to how they calculate that in a second.
Okay.
Here's a quote from the article. The vast majority of resilient disciples and habitual churchgoers use phrases like a Christian or a follower of Jesus when describing their faith to other people. More than half of nomads and even some prodigals also appear comfortable using these self-descriptions.
Wow.
Okay. So
That's
more than
crazy.
half of people who are unchurched, nomads, they're kind of just in between churches. Maybe they just watch church online at home.
Yeah.
And this is, by the way, I got to point this out. This is before the pandemic. This is 2019. This is pre-pandemic. This book is pre-pandemic.
All these numbers
So
are
imagine where we're at now. That's
yeah.
insane. And it's so crazy.
Because even like the habitual
pre-pandemic, 2019 was a vastly different world
than it is now.
than what we're living in right now.
Absolutely.
Crazy.
I mean, even when you think about like just hearing that quote and thinking about the majority of people who were Christians pre-pandemic,
Yes.
who may have even been habitual churchgoers.
Yeah.
Imagine being a habitual churchgoer and your church can no longer meet.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder, do you count, like how many people from the nomads go over into the habitual churchgoer category if I regularly watch online church, right?
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So if you're at home, like I never go to church in person, but now it's online, I might as well like tune in.
Yeah, but or like the people who were regular churchgoers and the pandemic happens, they physically can't go, so they just get used to watching church online. And
So
a
now
lot
they
of people have not come back.
That's true.
A lot of them have. They don't feel comfortable, whatever the case may be. So do they count as habitual churchgoers or nomads at that point?
Dang, I would love for Brandon to do this again.
Yeah, I'd love for a follow-up study with pandemic information.
That would be crazy.
Yeah, man.
I think it gives us good insight on, at least for us as like youth workers, to be mindful of like even where our students like fall, like which category do they fall in, not to like put them in boxes, but to say, okay, how can I can't reach the nomad unchurched person the same way I'm going after the resilient disciple. Like it's not going to work. Like it's going to be, if I come at the resilient disciple with like, bro, what the heck, bro? Like you missed like 3 Sundays in a row, they're going to probably be like, bro, like I'm so sorry. But if you did that to the unchurched, they're going to be like, all right, I'm out. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like
I'm already out.
There's 0 point for me to be here. And if you're gonna try to grill me in this way, like I don't feel like this is gonna help, so I'm not gonna stick around.
Very interesting. So last Monday, a week ago, with the middle school kids at Flipside, John and I told John about this, and I said, hey, what if we polled them. What if we gave the kids the same survey?
Oh, no way.
So we did. And it was interesting.
What?
It was very interesting. And I'll talk about what questions we asked, and we'll show the questions.
That would be, bro. You got to give me that so I could do it to my youth group.
Yeah. We made a Google form, and we brought the kids into the main sanctuary, and we said me and John did like a joint like kind of talk to the kids. So before we did that, we put up this link, tiny URL, and said, "Hey, go to here, answer these questions. It's totally anonymous, so please answer truthfully." And they did. You know what I'm saying?
That's incredible.
And I can't remember a lot of the numbers off the top of my head, but it was essentially like most of them were. Well, let's just look at the question because it'll make more sense if I go there. So let me talk about the survey as where they got these numbers and stuff. So there's a top part, and we only use the bottom 4 questions. Okay, so the top part is kind of the starting point. It says, right now, what religious faith do you consider yourself to be? And so they only took the results of people who answered Christian. Okay, that's where all these come from. And then there's a question that says, which of the following phrases best fits how you would describe your faith to others, completely or mostly? And so there's 2. There's a follower of Jesus and a Christian. So 0% of prodigals. Right. They don't have any numbers for them actually. 61% of nomads said they were a follower of Jesus, and 58% said they're a Christian. 79% of habitual churchgoers said they're a follower of Jesus. 81% said a Christian. 97% of resilient disciples said they're a follower of Jesus, and 95% said they're a Christian. Now, let's go to the actual survey questions here. Okay. And they only took the people who answered strongly agree. Right. So what we did with it was we had strongly disagree, neutral, agree, strongly agree. So there's 5 answer choices. Right. Right. And so here's how they got these numbers. So the first question, I believe living in relationship with Jesus is the only way to find fulfillment in life. 21% of the nomads answer strongly agree, even though they said call themselves Christian. 49% of habitual churchgoers. Less than half. How do you sit in church week in, week out? Habitually. And be like, Jesus is the only way to fulfillment in life? I don't strongly agree with that. That's wild. That is wild. Okay. 89% of resilient disciples. So about 9 out of 10. Okay. Second question. My relationship with Jesus brings me deep joy and satisfaction. 25% of nomads strongly agreed. 48% less. Okay. For the habitual churchgoers. 48% less than half. Again. Like, where are we going with these what is happening, bro? What y'all doing? How we going backwards? And then 90% of resilient disciples said they strongly agree with that. Okay, 9 out of 10 again. Following Jesus shapes my whole life, body, mind, heart, and soul. 24% of nomads. We got over 50%. 51% of habitual churchgoers said they strongly agree. 88% of resilient disciples. 8 out of 10, almost 9 out of 10. Last one, my relationship with Jesus impacts the way I live my life every day. This was 23% of nomads. Again, less than half.
I feel like the 49%. The nomads are legit. They're literally like, they're consistent. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, they didn't switch up.
Yeah, they're not switching up. But these habitual
churchgoers, man, I'm sad by that. Yeah. 86% of resilient disciples strongly agree with that. So again, 8 out of 10. Okay.
That is something.
So that last number, they add those up, and that's how they get 10% of people who claim to be Christian in this age group are actually resilient disciples because they answered they strongly agree with these questions.
Yeah, okay.
Right, so that's how they get those numbers. So it's really troubling, man. It's just like, now the cool thing when we did this with the youth was like, okay, guys, like this actually helps us know where you guys are at and know how to serve you and know how to like, okay, like
at what level and at what intensity too.
Yeah, like how, okay, there's I think it was only like 28 to 30% strongly agreed on these questions.
Oh wow.
Okay, so like Yeah.
Yeah.
A quarter to maybe a third, less
Yeah.
than a third of you guys strongly agree with this stuff, or we would be considered resilient disciples. Most of them either were neutral or just agreed. A couple of them disagreed.
No way.
A couple people disagreed. They're like, I don't know about that.
Dang.
Jesus.
That is so interesting,
So-
bro. I can't wait to like understand this.
Yeah, and so it was like, okay, like this tells us what we need to do, what we need to talk about, what we need to focus on, what we need to teach you guys to help move some of you over into the strongly agree category.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so we were just like, okay, this is really helpful, really insightful, but also really like, dang, this what we've been doing.
It could. I feel like it could be really disheartening.
Yeah.
Just thinking. I mean, I don't know. I mean, in a sense, yes, it's disheartening, but it's almost one of those necessary like pains that you have to go through.
Yeah.
Like if you didn't do it, then you would just continue to think, oh, we're all
I
our
think it's
everybody's
going
on the
okay.
right, everyone's on the right track, everyone's going the same direction. We are all in this boat together,
Yeah.
and then you find out, oh wow, like some of you guys don't. And even I don't know how you would do this, but like just figuring out who answered what to whatever question, so that you can start. All right, we need to talk more about this, or what are your questions about this?
Yeah. I think we could do some follow-up surveys. You know, what questions do you guys have, or whatever. No, I will make sure I say that these were middle school kids.
Right. So as they
were
as they get older,
and 8th graders, and because of the pandemic, they were like 5th and 6th graders. Like mentally, they're very immature. But those questions aren't like super complex.
No, but I think even though they're not super complex, but I mean, especially for like middle school kids, you know, believing that Jesus is your whole life in the 7th grade is kind of. I mean, if you answer strongly agree, I mean, it's one of two things. Either yes, you are legitimately
believe that,
or someone taught you to say that.
This is the right church answer, which I was afraid going in. I was like, I feel like they're all just going to say strongly agree because they feel like they're supposed to.
Mm-hmm. But the fact that it was anonymous,
I stressed, guys, listen, we are not going to know who said what. Please answer, like truthfully, how you actually believe and feel.
Absolutely.
I would love to do it with high school kids,
dude,
because I think,
I think they would need
that. Would
I think even in
really
high school,
telling.
Even starting the identifying as a Christian, because even when I think about my youth group and the students that I work with, if I'm honest, well, I don't know. Unless I do a survey, I wouldn't know for sure. But I feel like there's only maybe like 3 to 5 students who would even claim to be Jesus followers or Christians. If they had the option to choose between being a Christian, being a Jesus follower, being a Christian, or being a habitual church goer, I'm pretty sure they would just choose church goer.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's not because they don't know who Jesus is, or they don't like love Jesus. It's just, I think it's just like new for them. So they're still trying to figure out like, okay, yeah, because we last Saturday, or no, 2 Saturdays ago, like 4 of our students gave their life to Jesus, but they didn't really fully understand. They understood that their life wasn't going the right way, and they wanted a change, and they were like, Jesus gives me hope for that change. So they said yes. But understanding like more of what that entails and saying yes to Jesus means to give up your whole life. Like they're not fully aware of what they just said yes to.
Jesus always says count the cost.
Yeah.
So this is also interesting from the book. In a recent study to examine the what, when, and how of faith sharing in the age of screens, 6 out of 10 millennials, so it's not Gen Z, it's our generation, honestly, told us that technology and digital interactions make me more careful about how and when I share my faith. 58%.
Wait, read it again?
So technology and digital interactions make me more careful about how and when I share my faith. So because we're using technology and social media, I'm like, I don't know if I want to share my faith.
Yeah.
58% said
Okay.
that. Okay. This one,
I could probably agree with
people are more likely now than in the past to see me as offensive if I share my faith. 61%.
I would say yes. That I believe that's true.
Yes.
But I believe it's true because people don't know how to share their faith. So it's like, how do I put it? Showing the love of God to someone and showing how God's like changed your life, I don't think that's offensive to anyone. I think the way that we share our faith is what really becomes offensive. It's just like saying, even though it's true, but like just like flat out saying like Jesus is the only way to God, and if you don't choose Jesus, you're going to hell. Okay, yeah, that's offensive. Like it's true,
I agree,
but it's offensive.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I love you, I have to tell you that. But I don't have to be so aggressive in that tone.
Well, here's the thing, and this is the last thing I'm going to say before we take a break, is the first thing you said as far as like what Jesus has done in my life. I think the culture's fine with that. They'll say, oh, that's cool. That's your truth. That's good for you. That's great. I'm glad whatever works for you. Do you. That's cool. The second part, that's like you said, that's offensive. And so
because it's not a general statement.
That's part of why they don't want to claim to be a Jesus follower or a Christian.
They want
because
people
it's
to have
like
their own
that's going to be offensive. Oh, you're a what? Like, well, hold on. Don't you guys believe X, Y, and Z?
Right.
That's offensive.
Wow.
You can't do that.
That's true.
So that's probably where the hesitancy comes.
Yeah.
And that's millennials. Not Gen
Dang.
Gen Z's probably higher.
Yeah.
Right? It might be 80% where they're like, oh, I don't know about calling myself that because then people are going to think I'm offensive.
Yeah. And being able to, which is the truth, and we'll get into this after our break, but like being able, number one, as a Christ follower, as a Jesus follower, being able to befriend people who are not Christians, I think that's even a hard thing to do. Because Christians normally, especially if you're like, which I find really funny, when you become a Christian, most people go through this like really resilient phase, like or a really like zealous phase, and they're just like, which is great, but without knowledge is terrible.
So annoying.
So, so people are just like super gung ho Jesus, which is fantastic, but like telling everyone on your block about Jesus and just just giving them the whole like believe in Jesus or go to hell speech. Like, that's not the way Jesus ever did it. You know what I'm saying? Like, at least not to non-believers. Like, he would talk about hell to the people, but his main focus was like, I want you to know that I care about you as a person. Like, I care about you and I love you as a person. The alternative of not choosing me is terrible, but I'm just letting you know, like, I'm here to help, even if you don't choose me. So I think about the rich young ruler. He was like, the rich young ruler comes up to him and is like, hey, like, how do I inherit eternal life? And he's like, yeah, just sell all your, or you just gotta like do all these things. And he's like, yeah, I've done these since I was a kid. He's like, yeah, basically, but there's only one thing that like you love more than me, and it's your stuff.
Yeah, but the rich young ruler would count as a believer, right?
So, he would identify as a believer.
So I think it's interesting. This is the last thing we'll say before we go to break. It's interesting that, and reading this John Mark Comer book, I think it's got to get to the point where we are okay with being offensive to an extent.
Yeah.
Because Jesus was very offensive.
True.
He was. He just was. He said, a lot of people try not to say this or point to this, but he talks a lot about sin. He doesn't shy away from it.
No.
He makes it very clear where the line is. This is wrong. If you do this, you're going to be thrown out. There's weeping and gnashing of teeth. Like he doesn't hold back on those things. I think he balances it with ridiculous compassion.
Yeah.
And that's the piece that I think we're missing. We could be offensive if we were super compassionate like we're supposed to be.
If we were as offensive as we are compassionate,
yes,
I think people would rock with us.
That's the part that,
that's good.
Most of the early church was like, people would just be like, man, those Christians are weird, but dang, they're nice and generous. We kind of hate them, but it's hard to say anything bad about because they're just so darn nice.
Yeah.
That's the part that we're missing.
Absolutely. I believe that.
Okay. Let's take a break, and we got more to come. I love this topic. Hey, guys, what's up? This is an ad, so bear with us. Don't skip it. Guys, we have a Patreon. We've been talking about it for a long time. We would love some more of your support. Okay, if you get anything out of this podcast, any gems, any like good information, knowledge, you feel uplifted and encouraged, please think about supporting us on Patreon. Become one of our patrons, man. We want to expand this thing, make this even better than it is right now. We have, done a lot of renovations out of our own pocket. So guys, like, please think about becoming a patron.
Yeah, because your support goes a long way. It'll help us continue to upgrade our cameras, our computers, our everything that we do here. But we literally can't do it without you. So if you feel led to, please support us through this platform and continue to support us as we continue to grow and give you better content.
Thanks, guys. Love you.
See ya.
All right, we are back from our break. I want to quickly shout out our boy Sean Samuelu He's a friend of the pod.
Oh yeah.
He had me up at 5:30 in the morning to play basketball. Had a great time.
Dang.
They're doing it this week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Greer's gonna come, I think, one of the other days.
At 5 a.m.
5:30. I woke up at 4:50. I've been up since 4:50.
Good Lord.
Starting to feel it. And I want to shout out our friend Aaron Munoz, who started a new podcast.
My guy.
Called Creative
Culture. Yeah.
Which is dope.
I love
Sean is actually one of their guests. The episode's coming out soon.
Nice.
We would love to link up. And we've been kind of talking on the socials.
Yeah.
You know, doing that whole like, it's not real communication. We need to actually communicate and hang out and like get to know each other. Him and his homie Nemo.
Yeah.
But we appreciate you guys. We see what y'all doing.
Yeah.
You guys are dope.
Impressed
You're
that
way bigger than us. I'm sure. Very soon.
Just where you're starting is incredible.
Yeah, I mean they're already dope. They already have audiences separately, so coming together, it's gonna be cool. But
that's tight.
We see what y'all doing. We love it, and
we support y'all.
We have fans for life over here.
Let's go.
So, continuing our topic.
Let's talk about these resilient disciples.
Yeah, man. So, a couple things. So I have on our notes here, making Christians versus making disciples. Because one question I thought when I first saw this was like, so why is it like this?
Mm-hmm.
Like what has led to this? How do we get here? How come only 10% of people who call themselves Christians are resilient disciples?
Yeah.
Would answer strongly agree to those questions, which are very important questions. These aren't just some random questions.
Yeah.
Those things are really important. And I think it's because the Western church, the modern Western church, is, I don't know if they're more concerned with or more preoccupied, or it's just simply easier to make Christians instead of disciples, which is what we are called to make.
Exactly.
We're called to make disciples.
But instead we make Christians.
Yeah, and there's a difference there.
There
Because unfortunately today, in our world today, we have to define, what do you mean by you're a Christian?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people are clearly calling themselves that.
But are not.
But they're not.
They're not disciples. So like, which is, I guess it's kind of hard to break down it's not hard to break down the difference, but in your mind, like when you say, if someone said, oh, I'm not a Christian, I would just say, oh, wow, you left the faith, because my idea of a Christian is a real Christian. But if someone else is like, I'm not a Christian, or someone said they're not a Christian, in this day and age, I would have to like pause and be like, what do you mean by that? Because it could be, I no longer associate with the general broad understanding of what the world thinks is a Christian, and I'm going more deeper into being a follower of Jesus.
Yeah, I actually had a conversation with Emma, shout out to a friend of the pod, Emma Tucker, about this probably a year ago, maybe a little less than that. But like, there's certain places where you don't call yourself a Christian because there's too much ambiguity. There's too many people like misusing the term.
Absolutely.
So I'd rather call myself a follower of Jesus or a disciple of Jesus. But there's also certain parts of the country where you need to call yourself a Christian because the term is just not used.
Exactly.
And so we kind of have to either reclaim the term Christian or abandon it and just go with disciple or follower of Jesus.
Like in our own personal life?
I think it's just as a collective of believers. I think we've either got to like try to work really hard to like fight. And this is actually something related to what we're going to talk about a little bit later. But yeah, man, I just feel like we're worried about making churchgoers. That's why I think habitual churchgoer is the largest category.
Yeah, because it's way easier.
Because it's easier to make a churchgoer than a disciple of Jesus.
Absolutely. One of the things that is profoundly, I don't know what to say, it's profoundly easier to say, hey, come to my church. Someone likes the vibe of your church. They enjoy the music. They enjoy the sermon. If there even is a sermon, like they enjoy almost like the self-help that they can get from what they hear and being a better person. That's easy. Getting into the
part of this like club or whatever.
I have access to these things, and they help me get better.
Feel good.
But I'm not finna reciprocate that. Like, don't ask me to do anything. I just want to come and receive. The moment you're like, hey, like you've been here for 18 years, man. You thinking about
joining a ministry?
Would you like to serve in this department? Then it becomes like,
Whoa.
I don't know if I'm ready for that.
Yeah.
And I think one of the issues with that is the reason that it's even an issue is because we bring people to church and we don't bring them to Jesus.
Yeah. And that sucks, man. Because we've been saying, like, recently, I said it in my sermon, Patient talks about it in TG. We are not trying to invite people to TG. We're trying to invite them to Jesus. Like, the number one thing you got to do, I said this in my sermon, I've got to preach you Jesus, and then if you want to come to TG afterwards, cool. If you want to go somewhere else, cool.
Yeah.
Like, the goal is not to get you to be part of this church. Get you to be part of the church.
Absolutely.
Right? Which is people who are disciples of Jesus. So, but like you said, man, it's I don't blame churches necessarily, because in America, in the West, you got to survive financially. You got to survive. We need people to come and to give.
Yeah.
And so making disciples is difficult.
Yeah.
It is hard.
Because
it requires discipline. That's where the word comes from.
But also it requires you as the leader to trust that God is going to be the one to supply the needs of the church. Because if you are to say, I'm trying to make disciples, and you invite someone to a relationship with Jesus, and they're like, hey, that's super dope, and I want you to disciple me, but I don't want to go to your church. Could you disciple me while I go to this church that's closer to my house? Or can I go to this church that, like, I have some friends, but I like you as a person. I want, like, I trust, like, you're teaching me the right way.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Like, do I have to be taught?
That's such a weird. So you like me? You want me to disciple you? Why don't you come over here where I'm at? Like,
Well,
otherwise, find somebody over there who's going to disciple you.
But think about this. Think about your old church, where you were. You could have clearly discipled someone even while you were going to your old church. But would someone be down to go to your old church?
No, so come to ours. I don't understand. I'm like,
so when I think about this, I have some students who want to go to church. They're down to go to church. They visited my church and were like, I don't know if I could do this. And I'm like, what you mean? It's like, well, there's this, this part was not, I didn't like this part. I don't like this part. And I was like, all right, that's cool. But it was like, but I still like you. And I still understand like where you're coming from. And I like, so like, can we still kick it? But I don't really want to go to your church. And I was like, okay. I mean, that's totally fine. I think
that's fine. Yeah. I personally think the superior priority is discipleship.
Absolutely.
So as long as like you're being discipled, I think becoming part of a church, family, and community should take care of itself.
Yeah.
Like I said, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
because as even if you don't start immediately going to a church, which is, I think this is kind of like the disservice and almost what actually helps make Christians rather than disciples, is like that's all one choice. Normally, when you go to a church and you give life to Jesus, the next step is to become a member of this church. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I want to give my life to Jesus. Okay, cool. We'll teach you how to like submit your life to the Lord. And then automatically, all right, now you're a member of this church. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, I guess it's like,
members class.
Since I gave my life here, I might as well. But that's not the way that it has to be.
Yeah.
Someone can give the life to Jesus and be like, I'm not down with church yet. Like,
well, I mean, think about this. How many churches have a system in place to disciple people? Right? Because it's like, okay, you answer the call to give your life to Jesus. You come to the front. Mm-hmm. Come to the front. However it's done, everybody by it. Whatever you do.
Yeah, whatever you do.
Right? And maybe you get baptized. Okay? How many churches have a system in place where like there is a person who like, now I'm going to follow up with you. I'm going to do
life with you.
Life with you.
Yes.
Regularly, consistently. We're going to meet. We're going to talk. I'm going to teach you.
Yeah.
Right? That's what Jesus says.
Not just like biblical.
Teaching them.
Yes.
Right?
All.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching them all. Not just Bible stuff, but like.
Not just the church bylaws or doctrine. No, like I'm not here to train you to be a member of this church.
No,
I'm here to teach you about how to follow Jesus.
Absolutely.
That takes a lot of time.
And I think that's the reason why it's not happening.
Yes.
I mean, imagine if I think about this. How many people would sign up? How many resilient disciples would even sign up to say, yes, I would like to disciple someone? Because even I think about this, number one, like how many people do you want me to disciple? And like, what does that consist of? And I think a lot of churches even haven't even had the opportunity to have that conversation because we've all been in like survival mode or sustaining mode to where if I ask someone to do this, like, how are we going to, that's a lot. Like
it's a huge ask. I think I really believe that the structure of the church would have to fundamentally change.
Yeah.
And this would have to be the main focus. It couldn't be Sunday gathering.
Yeah.
It couldn't. That's a priority. We're going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the main focus of the church would have to be training people to disciple people.
Yeah.
Right? Identifying, okay, I mean, like, this is what we do, guys. Okay, you come here, you give life to Jesus, you've been discipled.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now we're going to train you on how to do this. We're going to have a system in place where you get maybe a maximum of 10 people that you are going to disciple. And you do it. Maybe it's a 2-3 year process. True. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe I mean, some of your students could graduate, quote unquote, in a year. Some of your students may take the full 3 years. And may not
take
longer.
Yeah. I don't know. But then those people get trained and they do it. And so you have a whole church of people, of disciples discipling, right? But the structure of the church right now is everything's focused on Sunday gathering, however many services you have on Sunday, and there's some ministry opportunities throughout the week. You know, you have midweek, you have youth service, you have children's, you have those different things. Maybe you have different other ministries that pop up. But there is no time for discipleship.
Right.
We don't have time for that because the Sunday is taking up a ton of time and resources and energy and focus. And so,
dang, and you still got to go to work.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like all these people who are going to your church, like I don't have time to disciple anybody during the week. I got work.
So like we gotta
I got kids. I got different things. Weekends are all I have. So
then we try to cram in all the lessons, not just like lessons about discipleship, but like lessons on Jesus, and then even at the same time, trying to teach trying to preach the gospel to where more people can say yes to Jesus. And I feel like a lot of us can get stuck in one or the other. Like you either get stuck in like a hardcore discipline discipleship church where they're trying to teach you how to be disciples, or you get stuck in a really evangelistic gospel where like everyone gets saved every Sunday, but then there's really nothing after that.
There's not a lot of follow-up.
There's not a lot of follow-up.
Yeah.
So those are the two that I've seen. And I feel like as a church, we got to figure out how to navigate that. But even more so as a resilient disciple, like we got to be able to deal with that on our like in our own level. So as I'm even thinking about these statistics, I think about, I mean, it's hard not to think about my students in my youth group. And I'm just like, how many of them have I like really invested time in that was planned? Because a lot of times this is what happens. It's like one of our students is staying with us this weekend due to circumstances, not because I invited him to stay with us. So if I'm like being mindful, the next time I can say, hey, bro, like next weekend or in 2 weeks, bro, I want you to stay at my house again. And then be intentional about teaching him about life, teaching him about Jesus, and then teaching him like the importance of the decision he made 2 weeks ago about giving his life to Christ. If I do that, then I am no longer making him a churchgoer. I'm literally making him a follower of Jesus to where he can make his own decisions in the future.
Really trying to cultivate his relationship with Jesus and his reading of the Word. And man, I'm as I'm just processing this, I'm really thinking like stuff needs to be different in order to make disciples, and it's not easy. And I think, I mean, like, are people going to be giving? Do you use the building for this? Is this done in people's homes? Does this kind of this lowers the building's importance, right?
Yeah, that's true.
You're still meeting on Sundays. You're still gathering on Sundays. And this is something that we've talked about with TG as far as the small groups. It's going to be a huge. Sunday is just kind of like a celebration, culmination of what's been done throughout the week.
Absolutely.
Which I think is a step in the right direction. Yeah, man, this idea. And so I think this kind of explains how you get 38% of people just being habitual churchgoers versus, and then just 10% being resilient disciples in this digital Babylon. Okay, so kind of moving forward here. Another reason why we have this situation is because of the empire that we're exiled in, of the West, of America, of whatever. And it's this increasingly, I'm seeing that America wants the kingdom without the king. And I don't care what side you're on, whether you're left or right.
Right.
The left wants, this progressive, like utopia, like promised land, like without God.
Yeah.
So it's like, we want you to be a good person. We want you to be a better person. We want you to grow. But the way we want you to get there is by living your truth. Truth is relative. Do whatever feels right. Follow your desires. Don't repress anything. You could feel like you want to be identified as a donkey, whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You just give in and just follow your heart and just do whatever.
And we'll have a utopia.
And it'll work. And honestly, in that sense, religion and faith in Jesus is hostile to that. We need you to get that out of here.
Yeah.
We don't need, and it's
No
very
submission.
Anti-authority.
Absolutely.
There cannot be any source of authority because all authority is suspicious. Traditions are suspicious. They're bad. Talk about this in the book. There's just this whole, we can't trust anybody.
Dang.
Right? And on the right, it's even more deceptive. It's really dangerous. The right is even more dangerous to me because of this. The deception is, no, we're Christian. We're evangelicals.
Yeah. We submit to authority.
We submit to God. But what they don't realize is that God, in their sense, is the country, is America, is their politics. Not even just the country, their politics version of the country.
Exactly.
And so they're not worshiping God. They're not worshiping Jesus. They're worshiping this creation that they call created. Jesus. They made him. Yeah, it's not God. It's not Jesus. It's not the God of the Bible. It's not Jesus of the Bible. Golden calf.
Something you created.
So they're calling that God, and they're worshiping that, and they're following that, and they're so like politics is their religion. Politics is actually becoming or has become its own religion in this country, which is really dangerous. And so they still want a kingdom without the king. They've made their own king. Yeah. Right? And it's not Jesus.
Yeah.
So I think both sides are equally destructive, equally dangerous. And I said this about the left, but I want to add this. There's this huge push about progressive Christianity.
Oh, bro.
And that is just as bad as what the right is doing. Where, we're Christian, but we don't adhere to anything that the Bible says, about God says, about any of that. So
we just like the love thy neighbor part. And only when our neighbor agrees with us.
And we totally redefine love and all that stuff. But so that's where you get to this point that I have here, which says cultural Christianity, which is like one of the worst things. And we talked about this when we had our topic meeting. Like one of the benefits of persecution, and yes, there are benefits of persecution, is that it gets rid of cultural Christianity.
Yeah.
It gets rid of,
because it's either you are or you aren't.
Yeah.
Ain't no in between right here.
There are no lukewarm Christians in China.
No one can trust you if you're lukewarm. And
you don't have the luxury of like, I don't know about this. I'm kind of a Christian. If you're kind of a what? Like, no, either you really you're ready to die for this or you're not it at all. Because you don't want to die.
That's crazy.
So there's no lukewarm Christians in Iran. This doesn't exist. So And that's because of persecution. Persecution gets rid of this cultural Christianity where like the example I got from John Mark Comer is that you go to Iran or Iraq or Afghanistan or Saudi Arabia, any Muslim country, everybody's Muslim.
Right.
Oh yeah, I'm a Muslim, of course. But
they're culturally Muslim.
Yeah. Do you like pray 5 times a day? Do you read the Quran? Do you do the 5 pillars of Islam? Do you dress the same? Do you not eat pork? No.
Right.
I don't do any of that.
Yeah.
But I'm of course I'm a Muslim. Because like you said, everybody is. It's just part of their culture. You're not actually a resilient Muslim.
Same with the Jews.
Same thing with Jews. There's a ton of Orthodox or a ton of like cultural Jews. And I'm not like religiously Jewish. I'm Jewish though. But sometimes I do Yom Kippur. Sometimes I do this.
Right.
It's just, I still eat pork. It's very hit or miss. And so persecution gets rid of that. And I think, unfortunately, the West and I think America is overdue for some persecution. Yeah. To kind of get rid of this whole like, oh yeah, I'm a Christian. Because I mean, you saw a survey, like a bunch of people, over half of nomads and even some prodigals who are just like, I'm not a Christian. Even some of them are like, yeah, I'm a Christian. I'd call myself that. That's got to go away because it's really confusing.
Yeah, and not only that, not only for the simple fact that other Christians don't know where you stand. Non-believers are like, well, if you're a Christian and he's a Christian and you live like this and he lives like that, I don't know if I want to be a Christian because I don't know.
Or I can be like, I can do all that and still be called Christian. Okay, cool.
And then you have a false sense of your identity in Christ. So now you're thinking, oh, I'm a Christian. I'm going to avoid all the bad stuff because I said yes.
That's why progressive Christianity is on the rise. Because they're like, oh, you can still basically do whatever you want. Yeah. And you're good. And it's like, nah, fam. Nah. The path is narrow.
Bro.
Now, with that, I just learned this too, which is really cool. I've always thought of that when Jesus says the narrow path and few will find it, meaning like only a few of us are going to be saved. There's going to be a small number of people who get to heaven, which can still be the case. But what I think he's saying more is that the path to life is very specific. It's very rigid. It's not a wide, broad path. Right. It's not a bunch of different ways to do it. This is a set. I can't find the freaking adjective that I'm looking for. But it's strict. You can't go outside of the lanes. Right. You have to do it this way. It's not the Hinduism all paths lead to God. Got you. You can't. This is it. If it's not Jesus, there's no other path. It's very narrow. One lane, one way.
Very restricted.
It's not a 2-way highway. It's one way. That's it. So it's very restrictive. And people don't want to hear that. Yeah. That's why Jesus says few are going to find it because it's right there. Yeah. I'm not going. I need more choice. I need more freedom.
Need more options out
here.
I
need more options.
Yeah, I think it's dangerous. It's good and it's dangerous because those who are on that narrow path, we can understand that this is an easier life, though it's hard.
It leads to life. The broad way leads to destruction.
Exactly. So for us, it's like, when the truth is, as a believer, I look at the broad way often, and it's just like, dang, it just seems so nice. Oh, and that person's actually saying they're a Christian on that broad road. And it's like, dang, like, is it okay for me to dabble over there for a little bit? Like, can I rock both of them? As long as, the road is going south, the road is going north, I'm going to go north too. Like, I'll be on the broad way, but I'm going to go north. And what Jesus is saying when he says, like, narrow is the way, it's like, you really can't get off of this. Like, it's either you take it all or you stop walking. And that's like the choice that we have. And I think with cultural Christianity, it's a distraction. It's literally a distraction to the broad way where God is, or the narrow way where God is leading us to, because it makes us want what digital Babylon is giving to us. And we fall prey to it because it gives into whatever all the desires that we want to have. The desires that are
good for us.
Yeah. And Jesus literally tells us, no, those desires are not good. You have to suppress them, and you have to train your body to say no.
Discipline your flesh, as Paul says. Yeah.
Discipline your flesh. It's not easy.
Yeah. To add to that, let me quote the book and then what we have in our notes here, which is from the article, actually. It says, According to this person, loneliness, depression, and anxiety among teens have risen alongside widespread adoption of smartphones, as has fear of missing out. So many live depleted, shallow lives, huddled around their screens, consuming personalized content in a futile effort to fill the void. Oh my God. Okay. And this quote from the article says, "It is easy to call oneself a Christian, but much less common to find deep joy in Jesus." Now that's what these people don't understand.
Yeah.
Is that we're not talking about, you can call yourself a Christian, but you're not, being restricted enough or being more, self-righteous. No, it's about finding deep joy in Jesus. That's what makes you a resilient disciple. The difference between everybody else and the resilient disciples is that they have realized that I'm going to be deeply unhappy
without Jesus
and hurt and empty if I don't become a deep, resilient disciple. These other people, they're thinking, "Oh, I'm good. I can answer, agree or disagree to, Jesus is the only way to find fulfillment in life.
Right.
And Jesus brings me deep joy and satisfaction." They're missing, like they're looking at Jesus as like this, like he just wants to cut out all the fun in my life.
Yeah.
He wants to make life not. No, bro, you're gonna not have anxiety and depression and loneliness.
Absolutely.
Now, you might have those chemically.
Yeah.
Those are issues. But like you'll have an answer. You'll have something that you can turn to.
Yes.
When those things come. Like
you're
trying to, like you said, you're trying to fill the void with all this stuff, all this junk, all this. I think they call it in the article digital clutter.
And it's not helping.
Yeah, man. So,
dang, that's so deep. Because just the fact that, and this is not to like toot my own horn, but like there's moments where I'm like driving in the car and I'll be listening to a song and I'm singing, I'm good. And then like the end part where like it gets like super like personal about like whatever thing is going on and in the song. And I'm like singing it over and over again. And I'm like starting to like tear up. And I'm just like, dang, like God, like, Jesus, you've been there for your boy, like through like crazy times. And even when I did this, like you still were there with me. And you've got me to a point where I have like a family and I love my kids and I love my wife. I would do anything to protect her. Like all these type of stuff. You supplied that. And I just want you to know right now, I'm so grateful for you to be in my life. And you start like weeping with tears of joy, not because you're sad, but you're extremely happy for a person you've never seen.
Yes, that's good. I mean, you just reminded me of this song I've been listening to that my wife showed me called Still God by Anna Golding. I think that's her name. And there's this part where she just says over and over, "You are who you say you are." And she just sings and she gets more intense and louder. She has an amazing voice. And that part gets me like teary-eyed because it's like, yeah, God, like you really are who you say you are. I can trust you.
Yes.
And a huge part of this book, Live No Lies, John Mark Comer's book, and I also read this in another book by Tim Keller, is that ever since the fall, ever since Genesis 3, we have inherited from our ancestors this lie that we can't trust God. So we have to be constantly reminded that we can.
Yeah.
Because that's what the serpent said. You basically saying you can't trust him.
Yeah, he's holding out on you.
He's holding out on you. You can't trust him. And there's a part of us, all of us,
that
believes that all the time. And so that's why there's why do you think there's thousands of songs that talk about how you can trust him? Because I need to be reminded all the time. I need to be reminded. No, Jeff, you can trust him.
Yeah.
Stop believing that you can trust him. I need another reminder. I need another song that says he's faithful. You can. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's why these songs always get to me, because they speak to that part of me that doesn't want to believe that lie. That I can trust him. Oh yeah, God, I can trust you.
I remember my uncle he's run a youth camp, and at the end of the camp he would just like ask all those, at least like the student leaders and the leaders, is like, have we ever done this camp and you've doubted God, and then like got to the end of the camp and like seen like he was faithful the whole time? Like our worries, our doubt is what drove us to like do things that we thought, oh well, God, maybe he's not seeing this part. Let me go ahead and like, amp this up or like make this more hype. I mean, there's one time when we were trying to do like this little party thing, and they were playing Christian rap music. None of the kids were into it, so someone thought it was a good idea to play like secular music. And did it get the kids hyped? Yeah, but then they weren't able to listen through the rest of the night, like anything about God. It was like they just would not focus, and it was like, man, we tried our way, and we've seen the result.
We didn't,
but we didn't trust God. Mm-mm. Like, yeah, okay, cool. They're not listening to what we're saying, they're not cool with this party part. But if the next night we did something similar, and they were super attentive to the Word of God, because God knows what He's doing.
Yes,
like He's seen this play out 100 million times. Like He knows what He's doing. Let us trust Him. And I find those moments, especially when I'm like singing in my car by myself, just being like just grateful that He is who He says He is, and He's never went back. And I think that's what like puts most people in the resilient disciple portion.
It's not necessarily they get credit.
Exactly.
They've just realized the truth that, like, man, God is the only source of joy and fulfillment.
Absolutely.
And if you can't strongly agree with that, well,
then you're saying there's something else out there better than God.
And it's not just that. Like, I feel sorry for you because you're gonna be let down.
Yeah,
you're gonna be disappointed. And so
that's crazy. I cannot, if I'm being 100% right now, I cannot think of a time that God disappointed me.
Yeah, I mean, I can think of times where I've been disappointed, but then God shows me later, or He comes through and He's like, "No, I got you."
But even in those
to go through that
exactly where you understood, like, oh, you were trying to teach me this, you were trying to show me this, and then you're like, okay, I was upset at that moment, but like, thank you for like helping me understand. And those are the moments where, I don't know, I can see myself just saying, I don't always understand what you're doing, but I can never question why you do them. Like, everything you do is for me to like love you more and to understand, or not even understand, but to really trust you in all of things in life. And I'm hoping like that continues in my life forever. Like, I just want to be that type of Christian that's like, God, you are my everything all the time. Even when I'm not sure, you're still that for me. So
so to wrap this up, 2 points. Number one, as leaders, as church leaders, as whatever we are, I think what you should take away from this article and this book is that the number one group that we need to first probably target is the habitual churchgoer. There's a huge group of people that are regularly coming to us. We've got to figure out how to move them over.
Yeah.
That's like got to be a huge priority for us, right? And this book, I can't wait to read it, the rest of it, because it talks about 5 ways for a new generation to follow Jesus in digital Babylon. So it's like these 5 practices that all resilient disciples do that have helped them be able to be who they are and be these resilient disciples.
Hey, wow.
And then the last thing, I want to just read this quote from the article. It says, the first practice of resilient discipleship is one of the first 5 things in digital Babylon is clearing religious clutter to experience intimacy with Jesus. That's part of the whole cultural Christianity. We've got to get rid of all the nonsense that we think is spiritual or religious or whatever, or think is Christianity, even though it's not, whether it's from the right or the left. We got to get rid of that. And what does the Word of God say? And what is some sound theology doctrine that we can get to help us experience intimacy with Jesus? That is the motivation, right? Yeah. Experience intimacy with Jesus. So, guys.
I was just saying, there's this one thing. So, Jess and I, we did this like joint preaching thing last Saturday, and a part of me was like, man, that's super weird. But after it was over, it was really incredible to witness. And one of the things that we were able to do is basically like ask ourselves these questions that like normally people would give us answers to, and they would give us like their own answer. But we started to do it like with the Bible. So like having a question about like, what does God want for my life? I'm not sure what to do, or I'm not sure what lane to run in. And we talked about Proverbs chapter 4, verse 5 and 6, where it says, lean not on your own understanding, but in everything you do, acknowledge God, and He will direct your path. Basically tell you how to live life. and we did like a series of questions like that. And I think this is where we're getting into, or where we gotten into today, about that practice. Like removing the clutter is like when you have a question, which is, I don't know if I can recommend this or not, but like if you don't have anyone to ask, any Christian to ask, or any resilient disciple to ask that question to, like ask Google, what does the Bible say about this? You know, and like read the Bible. Like don't just take what Google says or whatever your phone brings out on the internet. Find the scriptures and read those, because this is literally God speaking through his word to you on a question and a topic that you actually have right now in your life. So we're trying to get our students to remove the clutter, because a lot of our students are into like astrology and zodiac signs and stuff. And now they're in this whole like, so stupid. They're in this whole like Urban Dictionary thing, where like you type in your name in Urban Dictionary and it like gives you like who you are as a person. And like some of our students are not like that, and they're like living into it now. And I'm like, what are you doing? This is not who you are. Well, I type my name in the Urban Dictionary. You're going to listen to Urban Dictionary over God? Anyways, that's a totally different subject. But I'm just wild. Like, removing the clutter, especially for youth workers, and I'm specifically talking youth workers right now, it's to get students to read their Bibles for themselves. I mean, you can read it along with them, but let them read the words. Like, you don't have to always be the one to be reading it, because then it just builds a dependency on you reading the Bible. You want them to read it for themselves so they can experience a true intimacy with Jesus.
Amen. All right, guys. So, like I said at the beginning, this is the last episode of 2021. So we will be back in 2022 to continue season 4. Enjoy your holidays. Be safe. And learn, man. Learn some stuff. Read some stuff. Grow.
Man, start reading, y'all. For real, man. Start reading. It changes lives.
All right, guys. Enjoy. Take care. Love y'all. See you on the next one. Peace.